um, because if you pick up the lulav and the etrog, you have fulfilled the mitzvah because you took the lulav and the etrog. That was the discussion that we were discussing last week. What is the way to perform the mitzvah of lulav, to say the bracha before the that was the discussion that we were having last week. And we had different sources that one of the things that we do is that we turn over the etrog. We don't take the etrog, right, Adam? We don't take the etrog in the usual way. When we pick up the etrog, that's why you'll see people pick up the etrog. They pick up the etrog back upside down, and then they say the bracha. And then after they say the bracha, then they turn over the etrog to fulfill the mitzvah of etrog. So then, when do you fulfill the mitzvah? You do not fulfill the mitzvah, and you don't fulfill the mitzvah until after you picked up till after you turned over the etrog to the right position. So when you take it, you're taking it with the intent not to fulfill the mitzvah, because you don't want to do the mitzvah first. You want to first say a bracha before the performance of mitzvah. Ralph, is it clear how you do it by the etrog, right? That's what we said. But regarding the etrog. Good morning, Jaime.
Morning.
So we're just going to finish up some ideas of the Tosfos. Maybe we'll talk out some ideas that Tosfos points out. Tosfos says there's an opinion that says that you do not fulfill the mitzvah. There's an opinion that says that the mitzvah is not complete until after you wave the lulav. As we know, we take a lulav and etrog hadassim and aravot. We have another mitzvah of waving the hadassim and waving the lulav. That's a special mitzvah to wave the daled minim. We wave the lulav, we shake the lulav, all the different directions. And because we have a mitzvah to do that in all the different directions, so the mitzvah is not complete until you perform that. That's one approach in Tosfot. Jaime, we're addressing the issue. How could how do you say the bracha before the performance of the mitzvah? Because if you take the lulav and etrog and then you say the bracha, you already have done the mitzvah. If you pick up the lulav and the hadassim and the aravot and the etrog, and then you're going to say the bracha, you have performed the mitzvah just picking it up. The Tosfot says, how could you fulfill the mitzvah? How could you say the bracha? The Gemara says the bracha, the blessing precedes the mitzvah. So how do you do it? So how are you going to say the bracha on the lulav and the etrog before the performance of the mitzvah? So one approach, Tosfos says, turn the lulav upside down, or turn the etrog upside down. Therefore, you don't get credit for the mitzvah by picking it up. At that point, you say the bracha, and after you say the bracha, then you turn it the proper way, and then you get the mitzvah. That was one approach of Tosfos. Another approach of Tosfos was that perhaps if you intend not to fulfill the mitzvah, even if you picked it up the right way, you picked it up with the pitim up, but the fact that you had intention, that you want a clear intention not to fulfill the mitzvah, you don't get credit for the mitzvah. That was another possible approach Tosfos says. And then Tosfos says, another third possible approach Tosfos says, that maybe the mitzvah is not complete until you do the second part, the waving of the lulav. And being that the mitzvah is not complete, so it's still considered, you're still saying the bracha before the mitzvah, even though you already started the mitzvah. But since there's another part of the mitzvah that's here, which is the waving, Tosfos suggests perhaps it's not a problem for me to pick up the lulav and that's in the right way. Because why? And then say the bracha, because the mitzvah is not complete. And Tosfos is going to move away from this answer, by the way. We're not going to, but we don't rely on this answer, by the way. And because of the waving, the mitzvah. So therefore, we're saying the bracha before the waving. So therefore, maybe that's an explanation of how the bracha is before the performance of the mitzvah. What I want to point out is because Tosfos compares it to the bracha of Netilat Yadayim. When you wash your hands for hamotzi, the mitzvah is not complete until after you dry your hands. There's two parts. There's one part of the mitzvah to wash your hands. There's another part of the mitzvah to dry your hands. And since the mitzvah is not complete until you dry your hands, so that's why, and this is the halacha, you say the bracha after you wash your hands before you dry your hands. That's how you're supposed to do it. And we're going to make sure that all the schools, all the young schools for children, they're saying the bracha after they wash their hands before they dry their hands. There are certain schools that maybe for practical reasons, when the kids are young, the kids wash their hands, they dry their hands, and then they say Netilat Yadayim, and that is a mistake. Because if you train the kids to do it when they're 5, 6 years old that way, when they grow up, they're still doing it that way. That's the problem.
So, Rabbi, why aren't you allowed to speak in between drying the hands and making the hamotzi?
I presume because you want to keep your focus on your hands, that your hands don't get, you don't lose your focus, because you just wash your hands. You want to make sure they don't get dirty. Not to lose your focus and keeping your hands clean. That's what I would think the reason would be why you don't talk at that point. But I think the question is, why don't you say the bracha before you wash your hands for hamotzi? So the reason is it's possible that your hands might be dirty. So we don't say a bracha if your hands are dirty. So therefore we have to wash our hands first. So we can't say the bracha first. But we still have this concept of saying a bracha before you perform the mitzvah. So the rabbis say, okay, we have like a compromise that we could do over here. You know what we could do? We could say the bracha after we wash our hands, before we dry our hands. So since because the mitzvah is not complete until you dry your hand. So therefore, that's the appropriate spot to do the mitzvah, the bracha. After you wash your hands, right, Mr. Haber? Before you dry. I think this halacha is very not well known. You go to a table, you go to a Shabbat meal, where people are washing their hands. Some people are already starting to dry their hands, and they're saying the bracha Netilat Yadayim. Mistake. They shouldn't start at all drying their hands. They should first say the bracha Netilat Yadayim, right? Correct, Mr. Haber? And then dry their hands. That's how it's supposed to be done. So Tosfos wants to compare. Tosfos tries to compare. He attempts to compare the two-step process by Netilat Yadayim of washing your hands and drying your hands as the same thing by lulav, the taking of the lulav and the waving of the lulav. Tosfos wants to suggest that you have opportunity to perhaps say the bracha on the lulav between the taking the lulav and the waving of the lulav. That's what Tosfos says. Now, it's true, that's how we do it. But we say the bracha, we make sure that the etrog is upside down. We do it that way. But Tosfos wanted to suggest that you don't even need to have the etrog upside down. You could just, the fact that you're still not finished the mitzvah yet, because you didn't finish the mitzvah yet because you did not do the waving. That's called that's called that you did the bracha before the performance of the mitzvah. That's what Tosfos wants to say. Now then Tosfos says you cannot compare this aspect of the waving of the lulav to the drying of the hands, because the Tosfos says that the drying of the hands is not, the fulfillment of the mitzvah is not really dependent of, when it comes to waving. The waving is more of an independent mitzvah. And let's say the waving, let's say, is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, and you can fulfill the mitzvah of lulav without actually waving the lulav. Maybe if a person says a bracha, takes the lulav, and he does not wave the lulav, and he intends to fill the mitzvah, and he takes the lulav and the etrog and dasim and in the proper place, but he doesn't know anything about waving, he still gets credit for the mitzvah of lulav. He didn't wave the lulav; he missed out that, but he didn't. But he got the mitzvah. So therefore you can't compare, that to the drying of the hands, where the mitzvah is actually not complete until the drying of the hands, until you dry the hands when it comes to Netilat Dayim. So therefore, Tosfos a little bit at that point moves away from that answer. So therefore, the fact that you didn't do the waving is not enough to say that the mitzvah is not complete. And therefore, the other answers would be more appropriate. And now, just to look at the Yalkut Yosef, so it's interesting how he says how you do the mitzvah. Now, tell me, I want to ask the people here in the class, do they do it this way? He says, you take the lulav with the hadasim and that ravot tied to the lulav in your right hand. And before you take the etrog, he says, before you take the etrog, you say the bracha, Asher Kiddushanu Mitzvot V'Yisrael Natilat Lulav, and Shechiyanu on the first day, and then you take the etrog in your hand. That's one approach, he said. You hear how he avoids the issue? Like one idea we had in Tosfos also. Tosfos says, Tosfos given that answer also. Maybe you take the lulav before you take the etrog. That's one way he says to do it. Mr. Haber is looking at me, which seems to indicate that might not be the custom. The second approach, he says, you could take the etrog with it upside down. And Ralph is saying that seems to be more the custom. You have everything in both hands. You have the lulav in both hands, and you have the lulav in one hand, the etrog in the other hand. You have that, and then when you pick up the etrog, you're very careful. The moment you pick up the etrog, you pick it up upside down. So it's interesting that he brings the other custom, or the other approach that Jaime, is that interesting that he says one approach is you say the bracha with the lulav in the hand, and the etrog is right in front of you. It's ready to roll, ready to pick up, but you didn't take the etrog yet. He said the bracha, then you take the etrog. That's one approach, or take the etrog both before, like Ralph said, turned over upside down. Make sure you I think people have to make sure that they pick up the lulav. They shouldn't take the etrog the right way and then turn it upside down. But then they defeated the purpose. If you picked up the lulav and you picked up the etrog in a proper fashion, and then afterwards I'm going to turn it over down, and then I bet people do that. I'm speculating. It's a speculation. I think it's a good. I'm afraid to say, because people don't realize what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, if you're taught take the etrog up, say the bracha with the etrog upside down, so people might just. You hear my speculation, Jaime? They might just pick up the etrog in the normal fashion, but they know they got to turn it upside down, and then they turn it upside down. But they're already too late, because they already took the lulav and the etrog in the proper fashion. That moment it was properly taken. They have to be careful that the moment they pick up the etrog, if the etrog is like this on the table, you do not pick it up this way and then subsequently turn over. You pick it up in the beginning upside down. You never picked it up the moment it went into your hand. It went into your hand upside down. Is that clear, Mr. Haber? That's the. And then he says he brings another approach. If you take the lulav and the etrog in a way that you had in mind not to fulfill the mitzvah until after the bracha, that is also another approach, which you saw in Tosfos. You have intention not to fulfill the mitzvah till after the bracha, and But he said, nevertheless, if you took it and you did not have in mind clearly not to fulfill the mitzvah, you still will be able to say the bracha. If you just took it, you weren't thinking yet. I mean, you planned on saying the bracha. The fact, even though you didn't do the way you should have done, you should have taken it upside down, or you should have had in mind not to fill the mitzvah. But if you just picked it up, and let's say someone comes over to you, Rabbi, how do I say the bracha on the lulav and the etrog? And he's holding the lulav in the right way, holding the etrog in the right way. He still could say the bracha.
Grab the lulav in the right hand, pick up the etrog upside down.
Right. They initially pick it up. Exactly. That's exactly how you're supposed to do it. And when you picked up the etrog, you picked it up in the beginning. From the second you picked it up, it was at no point in the proper standing upright with the pick up. It was from the moment you picked it up, you picked it up backwards. That's the right. And then you say the bracha. Right, exactly. And then you say the bracha. You turn over the etrog, and then do the waving. The point here is we're all trying to fill this mitzvah that the Gemara says. The bracha precedes the mitzvah. And how do we do that? How do we accomplish that? By lulav and etrog. We accomplish that before you dip a glass cup in a mikveh, you say the bracha and then you dip it. Before you affix the mezuzah to the door, you say the bracha and then you affix the mezuzah. Before you do the search for chametz, you say the bracha and then you do the search. Before you tie your tefillin, you say the bracha and then you tie your tefillin. Not that you start tying your tefillin, then you say the bracha. We're trying to fulfill this mitzvah of a bracha preceding the mitzvah. But sometimes we're stuck. By washing our hands for bread, we're stuck. We can't say the bracha, or we can't say the bracha before. Good morning, Nathan. We can't say the bracha before we do the mitzvah, so therefore we're stuck. And we go ahead and we wash our hands, but we say the bracha after we wash our hands, before we dry, so at least we got something in the bracha before the completion of the mitzvah. Ideally, it would have been if we would have been able to say the bracha before we wash our hands, because the bracha is supposed to precede a mitzvah. Before you do the mitzvah. But since we have no choice, maybe our hands are dirty before we wash, so we can't say the bracha before. So at least we say the bracha after we wash our hands, before we dry the hands. And by the way, that gets also into the big question when ladies light the candles Friday before Shabbat. What is the appropriate way to light the candles? Do they say the bracha and then light the candles? Or do they light the candle and then say the bracha? So there's different customs, in how to do it. One of the issues that some are concerned is if they're going to say the bracha. One of the issues is for Ashkenaz, if you say the bracha, if they accept the Shabbat, then they can't light the candles. So therefore, in the Ashkenazi community, so they light the candles first. They say the bracha, but they cover their eyes. They cover their eyes as if to say, now I'm, at least by covering their eyes, and then they uncover their eyes. So it's like now they're first lighting it in a certain sense. That's why they're covering their eyes. But other communities, they might light it first, have in mind not to fulfill they say the bracha first. And they have in mind not to fulfill the mitzvah accepting Shabbat. They say the bracha and then they light.
Big controversy.
I would think so. I think Rav Ovadia Yosef held, his opinion was, I think you go ahead and you say the bracha first, and then you light. You have in mind not to fulfill the mitzvah. Because of this concept of doing the bracha before the mitzvah.
They never ask the rabbi, what to do,
whatever her mother did. Let her follow whatever her mother did. Right. So that's a major question regarding that. Now, it's a very interesting, talk about Ashkenazim and Sfardim. It's interesting that the Shulchan Aruch of Yosef Cairo, when it comes to, we're talking about the waving of the lulav, the question, what's the proper way to wave the lulav, right, on the holiday? So we say the Shulchan Aruch says you go derech yamin. That's the Shulchan Aruch, the way to Rabbi Yosef Karo. And we're going to talk about the custom, the Sephardic community. The Shulchan, here is an interesting thing that the Shulchan Aruch says one way, the Ashkenazim follow the way the Rabbi Yosef Karo says, but the actual Sephardim in practice follow the Arizal. God bless you. Which the Arizal says a different way, and yet this and they're going to follow the Arizal not the way the Shulchan Aruch says to do it. And the Ravadia in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch Yalkut Yosefi explains that in this case, this is not a problem of. It's not like we're going after the Ari against the Gemara. The Gemara didn't tell us which direction you should go ahead and wave. So the way the Shulchan Aruch writes and the Ashkenazim do it is you first wave, you go this way, and then you go to the right, back, this way, that way. It's very easy, up and down. So Ashkenazim, it's very easy how to figure out how to wave. But you start in front of you, go ahead of you, it's Mizrach, then you just go that way, you go that way, you go that way, you go that way. No, you already did that way, and then you go ahead and you did up, and then you did down. That's how you got all 6 directions. Very simple. But the Sephardim is a little bit more complicated. So they start Darom, they go to the south, then they go to the north, then they go to the front, then they go up, then they go down, and then they go back. That's the Morning Morris. That is the way of they go south, north, east, up, down, and west. And here, but he says every community should follow Mr. Haber their custom. Whatever your custom, your community is, that's what you follow. Okay.
The people from Babylon would be facing Jerusalem. The people in Europe would be facing Jerusalem. So you have difference between Sephardi Tahor and Ashkenazi, depending on where Jerusalem was in relation to that when they formulated the tradition.
Interesting. But also you should know, very good. Also you should know that the waving supposed to be done both when you say the bracha and also when during Hallel. And I think sometimes people might forget that. Meaning, sometimes the person's running late. So they want, and you have to say the bracha before the Hallel, and you have to say the bracha on the lulav. People say the bracha, and sometimes they run into Hallel. But they have to remember, after you say the bracha, you got to make sure you also do those waving. You should do the waving at that time of the bracha as well. You said the bracha, and then after you said the bracha, you turned over the etrog. At that time, you should wave. You shouldn't just jump right into the Hallel without doing the waving also at the time that after you said the bracha and you turned over the etrog. What did you say? What do you mean by hefsek? At which point? Oh, you're saying it's a hefsek because you delayed in the waving from the bracha. Right. Okay. So that's okay. Now let's get to the Mishnah. We're now starting the Mishnah, a new Mishnah on Lamed Tet Amud Aleph, on 39a. Now we're getting into Shemitah. Halokeach lulav me chavero. Someone buys a lulav. And here the issue is, we have to figure out what do you do during the Shemitah year? How do you go ahead and you have somebody that you are concerned that he doesn't keep the laws of Shemitah. And if he doesn't keep the laws of Shemitah, he's selling you an etrog. So maybe he's selling you an etrog that grew during the Shemitah. And let's say the Gemara is going to explain what the concerns, what are the concerns that what halacha he might not follow. And okay, but now he took it. He's holding it. It's in his possession. He now
Somebody else's farm, and now
he went into wherever he got it from. He let's say from his own field. Okay, so we're going to see there's certain circumstances that he can sell. We're going to see that certain situations, but we're going to see what is the issue of the concern here. So we're now on 39.8.2. If a person goes ahead and he buys a lulav from his friend during the Shemitah year, so what? Notin lo etrog b'matana. So you so you have the lulav. So the Mishnah is not concerned for the lulav, and the Gemara is going to have a whole discussion about that because the lulav grew there. Maybe if the lulav, why should the lulav be subject to Shemitah just like the etrog is subject to Shemitah? Some say the lulav is considered that there's no issue of lulav. Lulav will never have, halachically, there's no problem of a lulav that grew during the Shemitah year. And there are others that say there would be a problem of a lulav growing during the Shemitah year. You can't, it has sanctity, it has holiness. But we're talking about a lulav that grew in the 6th year and was harvested in the 7th year. So since it grew in the 6th year, the lulav is not subject to Shemitah because it goes after the time. The trees go after the time, the fruit of a tree goes after the time it blossomed, the chanata. Since the chanata took place, the blossoming took place in the 6th year, even if it was cut off the tree in the 7th year, it's not subject to Shemitah. I mean, it came from, it got benefit from the questions if it grew from the ground, if it grew from it got benefit from the ground.
Marsh, it's not owned by somebody.
Yeah, but really, I mean, that's the field. The field during the Shemitah year is not owned by anybody. It's hefka. Hashem makes it hefka, and yet nevertheless, if it grows during the Shemitah, it's subject to Shemitah. So we see that even if it's not owned by anybody, it's subject. That's fruit of the 7th year. Peirot shviot, it's fruit of the 7th year. Now, but you could use it. You can still use it, meaning fruit of the 7th year is available to everybody. It grew during the 7th year, but there are certain limitations. It's holy, it has sanctity, it's proven. Contrast, we're going to see about fruit that you garnered, you didn't leave open, you put gates on it. We're going to see that's much more different. That fruit is going to be forbidden to maybe use at all because that fruit was grown in a prohibited way because it was guarded. You put the gates around. You didn't open the gates. Shemitah, you got to open the gate. You got to allow people to come in. It's open territory. It's hefker. But if you lock the gates, we're going to see a big problem with that produce. But Shemitah produce, things that grow during Shemitah, you're allowed to eat it. No problem eating it. But there's certain halachot, what you could do with it. Even regarding certain sales, minimum amounts, maybe and how you treat this fruit. There's a lot of halachot regarding the Shemitah. There's a nice introduction here regarding the Shemitah. So maybe we should, I'll speak it out a little bit. There are certain types of work that is forbidden during the Shemitah year. Let's say sowing the field, pruning the field. Some say plowing the field as well is also prohibited during the Shemitah year. A study or do some other, they could do other form of business technically. If not, if they want to make clothing during the Shemitah year, they want to become tailors or other things. There's other opportunities for them. The main point of the Shemitah, the Torah says that you should have kili haaretz. It's that idea of making known that Hashem is the land belongs to Hashem. When you're busy every year planting and plowing and harvesting and working the field so much, you might start believing it's you. You're the man. You're the one. It's your kochi v'otzem yodi. It's your strength that is doing everything. And now you have to take a year off. Now, of course, like Nathan said, people could use that time. People who are not tailors, you can't expect a farmer to become a tailor. So obviously, hopefully, he'll use his time to grow and spiritually and learn and do that aspect. There are many rabbinic prohibitions regarding in Shemitah, and the prohibition of harvesting And picking the fruit is only if you do it in the normal fashion, the way people harvest, like large amounts. But if you do small amounts for yourself, that would be allowed. You want to cut off small amounts for yourself. I mean, maybe there's also discussion if you cut in the not usual way, or maybe that's called not usual, small amounts. That would be allowed to actually go into the field during the Shemitah. You could pick, because like we said, it's open for everybody to eat. So obviously it means that everybody could go ahead and cut at least small amounts. Now, the things that grew during Shvius, the fruit, the produce that grew during Shemitah, there's all specific limitations what kind of use you could use with those produce. You could eat it, you could drink the produce, from liquids from the produce, whether it's wine or other things with Shemitah. You want to eat wine for Shabbat. You can have some of the grapes that grew during the Shemitah year. You could use it for wine. You could use it to smear the oils. You could go smear it. There's also for dyeing purposes, and you can use it for oil, for lighting purposes. So we're going to see, and there's a very strong prohibition. You can't waste Shemitah produce. It's holy, a sanctity. You can't in general waste any produce, but there's definitely a special prohibition of wasting Shemitah produce. Now, also, what Nathan was talking about is that we have certain prohibition of doing business with Shemitah produce. We can't go into, it's not you don't do your regular business Shemitah produce. It's Hefker produce. And even if what you took in, if we said this, it's still, how can I do, you can't do business, but that's only if it's a normal way of business. But small amounts, selling small amounts, small sizes, small amounts in certain situations, that will be permitted for you to go ahead and sell it. We'll see in the Gemara later on. So these are some of the things. And then also another halacha to keep, when you take into your house during the Shemitah year, if you take fruit from the field into your house, you could keep that fruit that you bring into your house from the Shemitah as long as that type of fruit is still available for the animals in the field. But if that fruit that you took in, let's say you took a lot of grain, a lot of wheat, a lot of, and you put that into your house, and now at a certain point there's nothing left for the animals in the field, then you got to remove what you took into the house, and you got to put it back outside, available for everybody. And then that's called biur. You got to get rid of what you have from your house. You'll have to keep what you brought in from the fields in your house as long as it's available for the animals in the field. Hopefully we'll see, either we'll learn more about it here, or we'll learn about Shemitah a little more about that. But at a certain point, when there's nothing left, if nothing left in the field for the animals, you got to bring it out of your house, make it hefker. Some say you can actually go ahead and then retake it. Once you made it hefker, it's available for everybody. Some say you can actually retake it. The Rambam says you actually have to destroy it. So that's a matter of dispute. But now let's get to our Mishnah, just a little bit to get our feet wet in some of the issues facing Shemitah produce. So now comes the Mishnah. Halokeach lulav mechaveru b'shviyah. If you went ahead and you bought a lulav from your friend during the Shemitah, the text here has it from your friend. Rashi says Rashi says it should be ma'am ha'aretz. We're not talking about your friend, because we're talking about, you're a person who's very concerned, very knowledgeable about Shemitah. So your friend is, usually when you say your friend, you refer to someone who's equal like you. But we're talking about you're buying from someone who's uneducated, who you're concerned that maybe he's not doing everything right regarding Shemitah. So therefore, instead of calling him your friend, your colleague will call him an amaretz. That's how Rashi's text is. If a lulav during the Shemitah, so notin lo etrog b'matana. You know what? You tell the seller, you know what? I can't buy the etrog from you. I have a problem. I can't buy the etrog from you during the Shemitah year. the Gemara will identify what exactly is the issue, what's the concern. But we just mentioned certain circumstances. You could buy a little bit of business, small business, not the normal business, can be done. But so what? I got to tell the seller, please, I can't buy it from you. There's a problem. I'm not allowed to buy the etrog from you during the Shemitah. Please give it to me as a gift. I'm going to give you a higher price for the lulav. I don't mind giving you a higher price. I'm going to pay you, and you know what? I'm going to give you a higher price on the lulav. I'll pay you a higher price, and you'll be satisfied. You're getting a very nice price. Every year, you get, let's say, for the lulav, $30, $40. This year, I'm going to give you $100 for the lulav. I'll give you a lot of money for the lulav. It's only in the Shemitah year. And you go ahead and you tell him, gift me the etrog. So you're making up for the loss of the etrog that he because the Amoritz is not ready, the uneducated Jew is not ready to just gift you the etrog, which would be ideal. He should just gift you the etrog because he's really not supposed to be making money on the etrog, but he might not be on that level, not ready. So this is the halachic way, called halachic legal loophole, as long as it's halachic, but we do over here, that you tell him, I'll give you a higher price for the lulav. So that is how Rashi says you request of him to give it because you cannot buy it from him during the Shemitah year. You can't buy the etrog. Now the Rambam right that. So I want to clarify a point. The lulav, like Nathan said, the Gemara is going to eventually say the reason why you could buy the lulav is the lulav grew in blossomed in the 6th year, was picked in the 7th year. The Rambam, I think, holds it doesn't make a difference by lulav. His opinion is going to be doesn't make it even if blossom in the 7th year. There's no problem Shemitah by a lulav. It's not like every other fruit. It's not a normal fruit. It's not a fruit. It's more like wood. So maybe the Rambam holds there's no issue at all with lulav. The Gemara our Gemara is going to hold there's an issue with lulav, but Rambam obviously has other sources differently. The etrog we're going to see is a major discussion when it comes to Shemitah. Does an etrog go after the blossoming, like other fruits of a tree, or would an etrog go after the picking when you harvest it? And we're going to see the etrog goes after the picking. That the etrog Shemitah regarding the 7th year, even though an etrog blossom in the 6th year, as you know, etrog stays on the tree a long time. The etrog blossom in the 6th year, but regarding the laws of Shemitah, it's like a vegetable. A vegetable goes after when you harvest it, and the etrog requires a lot of watering, like a vegetable, and it has the same halacha regarding Shemitah, that if it was harvested, you picked it, you cut it during the 7th year, even though it sprouted and it blossomed in the 6th year, subject to Shemitah. So that's what we're going to see in the Gemara also about uniqueness of etrog, that it goes after that. We'll call it the katsira. It goes after the harvesting. So therefore, that would be that's the issue with the etrog. So that's why we have to figure out how to deal with the etrog. Now the Rambam says, from the Rambam, it seems the following: that if you don't have to, as long as you don't have to say, you don't have to say to him that openly, please give me the etrog as a gift, and he has to say, yes, I'm giving you etrog as a gift. That's how Rashi said. The Rambam says you don't need that. As long as you don't say I'm paying $100 for the lulav and the etrog, you just say here's $100, and you didn't say I'm paying 50 for this and 50 for that. today when you go buy an etrog, right? You go, how much is this etrog? So everything is about the etrog. This set is $100. This, if you want this etrog, it's $100. If you want this etrog, it's $150. So the price, the fluctuation of the price, if you're talking about the etrog, that means you're clearly, openly saying, I'm paying for the etrog. But if you don't say that, you just say that your intention is, the intention of the buyer, and we're not, I'm paying $100 for the lulav, and the etrog is free. I'm not paying for the etrog, but I don't openly say, give it to me, give me the etrog as a gift. But I don't say I'm paying for the etrog. That is good enough. As long as my intention is, the buyer's intention is, I'm not paying for the etrog during the Shemitah year. I can't buy the etrog. I'm giving you $100. I'm giving the etrog, the lulav usually costs $50. $50. I'm giving you now. I'm going to pay you $100. This year, I'm happy to pay you $100 because I can't buy the etrog. I'm happy to pay $100 for the lulav. And here's $100. My intention was that I'm just paying for the lulav. That's good enough. That's what he says. And sometimes that's how you do it. If a person, let's say, has a cleaning lady, right? You have a cleaning lady for Shabbat and Friday. So you don't go ahead and say, I'm paying you $50 for Friday and $50 for Shabbat. She came on Shabbat and she left during the Shabbat. You say, I'm giving you $100, and you don't mention openly, specifically, I'm paying you. So therefore, it's just swallowed up. It's all swallowed on one thing. And your intention is, I'm just paying you for the weekdays. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day, and we'll see everybody tomorrow, hopefully with more people here. All the best, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you for being on.